Very good afternoon to you, Precious. Thanks so very much for joining us here on SABC News this afternoon.
Afternoon, Flo. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about then the work that Afrika Tikkun is doing then in support of gender-based violence. Just before speaking to you, we actually were talking to another civil society organization called Not In My Name, and they were talking about being on the ground and really trying to mobilize men to change their behavior patterns. And one wonders, with all these organizations, are we really making any headway if we're continuing to hear of these sorts of incidents?
We are, slowly but surely. We haven't gotten to the peak of it as yet. As an organization, we're quite strongly in providing social support for victims of GBV. Actually, in 2017, we launched a campaign called Memeza Bazobuzwa in partnership with the DSD, where we encourage victims of GBV to actually shout and speak up about the incidents that have happened to them, and encourage the community members to actually take part in assisting those victims and getting them to actually report the cases of gender-based violence against those victims. We also work, with various partnerships like your SAPS, Lawyers Against Abuse, Childline, various other initiatives, really, where we again try to provide safe spaces for these victims to be able to speak up, but also to get the necessary support. I think that's the one big thing, is to getting them to get the support that they require, to be able to go back into the same communities and be able to continue, because also we know how hard it is for victims to report a case and still go back into the same community and function as if nothing has happened.
Yeah. What are the patterns that you've identified, either with the different cases or the different perpetrators or even the victims? And the reason I raise this is that, before people were misinformed in what a GBV a victim looks like. It was seen as perhaps a woman who wasn't educated, a woman that perhaps couldn't support herself economically. But we've realized that this has changed significantly. Many of the women are in fact educated. I mean, we look at the situation with Nosicelo Mtebeni, a final year law student at Fort Hare. So it's difficult to actually tell if there is some sort of a pattern. But being an organization that specifically deals with victims of gender-based violence, is there something that you have indeed picked up as having been a common pattern, and perhaps that then can be addressed in that way?
Like you said, there isn't a standard pattern. Truthfully, it's very difficult to even try and pinpoint what some of those challenges look like. But having worked with the victims and hearing, some of their concerns, biggest things come up like financial access, where it's an obstacle for victims of GBV. Access to economic opportunities is something that also gets quite raised, but there isn't a particular thing that you can really single hand out to say, this is what a GBV victim looks like, or this is the cause of GBV, especially where there are so many elements within township areas that could be an igniter to such incidents.
Yeah. Are we still finding that there's a lot of victim blaming, which is perhaps stopping, those who are in relationships that are leading to already, in fact, have abuse in them from, in fact, speaking out? I mean, what are some of the, when you speak to victims of gender-based violence, what are some of the things that they would be saying to you in terms of, why they didn't perhaps pick up the red flags earlier on and speak on that? I mean, what are some of those things that stop victims from speaking out?
Picking up on red flags is quite a subjective topic, because what I can see as a red flag could be seen as a pink flag, could be seen as a yellow flag to someone else. I think also, it's not that clear when you are in an abusive relationship. You feel like there's no hope, or you don't know how to break free. You don't even know where to access the help without being judged or without being discriminated. So again, there are a lot of elements that limit or stop a victim to report these cases that are happening against them. As an organization, we've worked with Action Break Silence, where again, it enables the victim to actually speak freely about some of the social affinities that are taking place. Family structures, again, are very fragmented. Where some of the social ills that they are faced with, and unfortunately it requires all role players from various angles like public and private sectors to actually partner up and make sure that we are providing the necessary support to the victims, and make sure that private sectors actually put some sort of a financial backing as well to programs to make it easily available for the victims to be able to access those programs.
Yeah, I was speaking to another a civil society organization just last week called GBV Monitor South Africa, and one of the things that they raised was that it seems that we're so focused on urban areas, and that, you know, some of these problems are so rife in villages, in rural areas. And I know that you're particularly based in Johannesburg, and most of your work is done in Johannesburg and Cape Town. Do you plan to reach out then to assist women who are perhaps in those villages, and maybe tag team with some other civil society organizations who are dealing with different aspects of gender-based violence?
Yeah, we actually do. We've partnered up with a lot of other organizations within KZN, as well as Johannesburg, Limpopo, just to make sure that we also have quite a wide footprint in providing the necessary assistance. But also we know that working in greater numbers and strength makes sure that we are able to reach more victims within GBV, and not just limited to the areas that we work in, which is in Gauteng and in the Western Cape.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so very much, Precious, for being with us here on SABC News. We certainly do appreciate your time.